Welcome back to Twisted Web True Crime Tales. I am your host, Sierra. We have an odd case to cover today. A mother, Sasha Davis, and her 4-month-old daughter, Selah Davis, disappear on a trip with an old high school friend, Jarib Bennett. Almost a decade later, the friend pops up in an obituary, but not everything is as it seems in this case. But like every story, to explain where we are now, we must go back to the beginning.
As I recall, she said she was going to Jersey with one of our other friends, Griff.
Jarib Bennett, who was also nicknamed Griff, had been friends with Sasha since high school. They had both grown up on the island of Jamaica and then emigrated to the U.S. Sasha settled in New York City, raising her 2 daughters. Griff moved to New Jersey.
On February 15, 2008, then 30-year-old Sasha, her 4-month-old daughter Selah, and then 27-year-old friend Jarib or Griff were all set for a trip to Rochester, New York. The original story was Sasha and Jarib were reportedly going to visit friends. In March 2009, the New York State Missing and Exploited Children Clearinghouse issued its annual report. In it, they mentioned this case, adding that Sasha and Jarib were traveling to collect a large sum of money. The 2 friends had rented a car for the trip to Rochester. The distance from the Bronx to Rochester is about a 5.5-hour drive. The Charlie Project stated that on February 27th, the rental vehicle was located in southwest Rochester on Genesee Street near Genesee Valley Park. The car was abandoned.
The cops said there was no fingerprint. They said there were no blood splatter, which was good news to us. We're still hopeful.
The car hadn't been driven in a few days. I believe there was a stroller and some other items for the baby in the car, but there's also things missing that we were able to later locate at area pawn shop. It could be they just went off to an island someplace and started a new life, but as a police officer, you're probably going to think that something more sinister happened.
After almost a decade of silence regarding the trio's disappearance in 2017, a group on web sleuths found an obituary for a Jarib Bennett on Legacy.com. The obituary stated that the deceased Bennett shared the same birthday as the missing man and had lived in New Jersey but died in Wisconsin. It also listed that he was married and had daughters, but there was no mention of him ever being missing or if he was the same person.
They called me the priest and they wanted to know if I'm aware that he's dead, Griff. I was confused. I was like, what? So I was like, where they found him? So when they showed me the picture, I was like, no, that's not Griff.
This all played out like the plot of a Hollywood movie. Jarib Bennett did die in 2017, but the man who was traveling with Sasha and Selah, who everyone called Griff, was not actually Jarib Bennett. Investigators say the truth was that Griff took on Jarib Bennett's identity when he arrived in the U.S.
The male who was missing, who came here to Rochester with Sasha Davis and her baby, was actually an individual who was here illegally from Jamaica and somehow was able to get a hold of Mr. Bennett's information and was able to get other ID and assumed his identity and lived in the United States as Jarib Bennett.
To Soyeni, he'd always just been Griff, ever since high school back in Jamaica, and they'd always been on a first-name basis.
So then I kind of understood that he had assumed another name.
We actually talked to a person in New York City who was able to explain how the missing person had assumed that identity and gave us the real name that they knew him by. We have a name on him now, but I don't even know if that's the right name. It was that name he assumed before. He assumed this name and he had some legal trouble with that one, so that's why he needed to use another name. We know that he was here from Jamaica. We really have no way to say exactly who he was.
So now the cops know he is not Jarib, but they still are unsure of his true identity. There has been speculation that Griff could be the father of Selah, but that has not been confirmed by either Griff's family nor Sasha's. All we do know is that Sasha would never have left her other daughter like this. Police have determined that, yes, they were going to Rochester to get money and not to really visit friends.
Through the investigation, we had information that the male missing person was here to sell marijuana. The amount of drugs and the amount of money involved were said to be substantial. Him being here from out of town and with a large amount of money, a large amount of drugs, involved with associates here who would be involved in drugs and potentially violence led us to believe that this certainly could be some type of crime involved in this. Sasha Davis and her baby were, as far as we know, never involved in any of the activity, but were along for the ride with him.
In 2024, police gave forward their theories on what happened to the trio.
What do you think happened to Sasha and Selah Davis?
It's likely that they came here so the male could sell marijuana and collect money from previous sales up here. It's likely that people knew he was coming and he was somehow set up to be robbed. I think the missing person was probably the victim of a homicide, probably in Western New York, either in Rochester or Buffalo. And then Sasha Davis and her baby, it's certainly the possibility that they were also victims. They may have just been with him in the wrong place, wrong time.
If we're assuming that something did happen to them and it could have been a homicide, do you know who's responsible?
We have a pretty good idea. There were other spin-off arrests made because of this investigation, but no arrests were made specifically for any crime committed against any of those three missing people.
As things stand today, what started as one mystery has turned into two. Where is Sasha, Selah, and Griff, and who really is Griff? It is very disturbing to me that Sasha could be friends with Griff since high school and not know who he really is since they lived in two separate countries together. I don't blame Sasha for going along with Griff. I just feel like she was misled about who she could trust, and that is the scariest part of this whole situation. I think someone knew that Griff was coming with drugs and thought, hey, I can rob him, and I won't have to pay him the money that I might owe him. Two birds, one stone scenario. I hope that this has weighed on the perpetrator's conscience for 17 years, and it won't allow them to rest until they come clean. At the time of her disappearance, Sasha Davis stood 5 feet 5 inches to 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighed 120 pounds. She had black hair and brown eyes. She has a mole near her right eye, a tattoo on her left breast, and a tattoo on her right calf. Sasha's middle initial begins with a G. She would be 48 years old at the time of this publication, and her daughter, Selah, would be 17. I am going to call this unidentified person Griff, since we know he is not Jarib Bennett. Griff was 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighed between 215 to 230 pounds. He had black hair and brown eyes. If you know anything about this case, please contact the New York Police Department at 212-694-7781. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment what you think about this case. Also, let me know if there are any other cases you would like me to investigate and cover.